Hi everyone, it's Jenny with Art with Jenny K. Today I'm here to explain how you can do my pattern pumpkin project with my free template. All you have to do is visit my blog, download the template, and get started today. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this project. If you're like me and you're really visual, you probably like to watch a video instead of reading a blog. And so that's what this video is designed to do. So let's get started. The first thing you'll want to do is download the template that looks like this. Now, you'll want to play with your printer settings just a little bit to make sure that you fit the entire image onto your page. After you have printed the template, then you'll want to make a copy of it onto cardstock so that you have a nice thick paper to use to cut out your template. Before you start just having your students cut all the pieces out, have them go around the edge and cut out the perimeter like this. That's going to make making the pieces a lot easier because now they can go in and they can just cut along the lines and keep the pieces together. It's really important that when they cut out the pieces, they keep them intact because you want them to think of it like a puzzle. So tell them that when they cut it out, they want to stay around the dotted line and so that all their pieces will fit perfectly together like a puzzle. So you've copied it onto cardstock, you've cut out the perimeter, and then your students can go through and cut out all the pieces. Now what I like to do is put them all in an envelope. I like to put them all in an envelope so that next year I can just pull them out and this first step is already done. This first step's a little bit tedious, so if you go ahead and do this in year one, then year after year you can just pull these out and you'll already have what you need. Your students don't all have to cut out all 7 pieces. You can have them work in groups. You only need one set for every group of 4 or 5 students. So you want to go ahead and think about that when you cut these out because you don't really want all your students to have to cut them out. You're just going to have your students trace onto the paper, just like this. Pretty simple. You just have them put that on there, trace around, and then you're just going to have them cut it out. Now, if you have older students, you could have them just hold the piece on and cut right around it, but that's kind of tricky to do because it tends to move around. All right, so have your students do this step with all the pieces, so you have all of the puzzle pieces, and then lay out all the pieces onto a black piece of paper or a different color, if you've another color that maybe you haven't already used. And then have them start, after they have them all laid out, then have them start gluing them down. You're going to get something that's going to look sort of like this. Now, the next part's the really fun part, and that's where your students get to add in all the patterns. So make sure and keep all your scrap paper when you're cutting out all these shapes, and then let your students use those scraps to go in and put patterns. Don't solve it for them and tell them how to do it. Let them figure it out on their own. You'll want to see them measuring pieces to see how to cut stripes, figuring out how to make circles, how to cut off the edges so it looks like it fills in the space, and any other kind of pattern your students can think of. You'll want to also see if you can give them challenges like use the wrapping paper that I've provided for you, or if you like to make textured paper with your students, you can pull some of that out. This is a great time to use all of the sort of scrap papers and things that you have in your classroom that you're not quite sure what to do with. Something like this stem is pretty small and you only need a little piece of paper for that. So great time to pull out all your scraps. Once your students have finished, you'll have something that looks like this. Now, on top of the challenge of creating patterns, your students are also going to have to think about how colors work together. And that's another reason this is such a fun project for your students, because they'll have to think, what's going to be a good color on top of the pink? And of course, there's lots of great colors, but you're going to want to let them try to create the whole composition with all different colors and all different patterns and designs. You might also, depending on your students, you might have them use markers to go in and fill in some extra details. You'll see that I've done that here on the stem because it was such a small shape. So you might provide them with markers, color pencils, crayons, and have them add some more designs and textures to that. So that's how to create your patterned pumpkin project. This is great for grades 2 and above. But if you're working with kindergarten, first grade, or preschool, you might want a variation. And I have just the thing for you. So if you are, in fact, working with younger students, all you have to do is take that template that I give you and then copy it onto colored paper. What you're going to do is use 7 pieces of paper, 7 different colors, and then have your students cut out the shapes and let them work together. You could have your students work in groups of 7, and then they could go in and they could exchange so that they only end up with 1 color per piece, and then they could put their pumpkin together to look something like this. You'll notice that each one has the number on it, so now you're going to want to challenge your students. How can you put patterns into your design and cover up the numbers? Because you can see here, this one used to have the numbers showing, but the way I've incorporated the patterns perfectly hides all of the numbers. So this would be a great variation for if you're working with younger students. Like I said, preschool, kinder, first grade, where the tedious step of cutting out the pieces and then tracing them might be a little bit hard for your students. And even if they can do it, it just might take a long time, and you might want something to sort of speed that part up. So I hope you have fun with this project, and I hope that your students enjoy it. If you get any great photos and you'd like to share with me, please feel free to email them to me or tag me on social media. My handle is @ArtWithJennyK on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can always pop onto any of the social media platforms and tag me. I would love to see the art that your students make. If you have any questions, you can just email me or message me in all of the different platforms. I answer questions for teachers all the time, and I'm happy to help you with whatever you need. Okay, thanks for watching, and happy art making!